What if you were missing out on 1 to 3 deals a year because you overestimated your rehab costs, literally costing you $30,000+ in wholesale fees or possible flip profits? And truth be told, we went through this same exact scenario in our business and we lost out on numerous deals because we didn't know what to do. But fast forwarding to today, we've done dozens and dozens of rehab projects, and it has allowed us to lock in our numbers almost down to the exact dollar amount on what it might cost to rehab a project. And we can literally do this without ever even stepping foot in the place. Now, what does this allow us to do? It allows us to make offers on the spot with owners, and it allows us to make offers over the phone if we need to. And if you want to learn how, let's get into it. So here's a property that we just went through. As you can tell from the exterior, the thing needs some work. But to give you a real life example, we are gonna break down on my computer how much this is going to cost to remodel. So now when you pull up to any sort of rehab project, what is typically the first thing that you or I would notice? And that is the exterior of the property. But what all encompasses the exterior of the property? I would say that the exterior of a property is made up of the roof, the siding, the windows, the landscaping, the concrete work coming up, the soffit, the fascia, the shutters on the house, possibly even the exterior doors, and maybe some of what you can see for the foundation by looking at this example on my computer. So in the picture, you can tell that there's multiple things going on here, which is kind of unique, but let's pick these apart. So the first thing that I noticed is all the paint is peeling on the exterior. Like this is all peeling, it's probably rotted. So it might need to be replaced or patched in. There's multiple things going on. The windows are all older wood windows, which you can see from the grates inside of them. These look to be newer vinyl windows. These steel awnings or aluminum awnings are terrible. Those need to be replaced. And the front door actually looks to be in fairly good condition, so who knows, we probably don't need to touch anything there. But now let's scroll back to look at the landscaping. Obviously we're in the middle of winter, everything's kind of dead, but there is no bark or landscaping in here. It's just shrubs or plants. So maybe if we were doing this project in the summer, we would have to worry about this. In the winter, we do not. And as you can see here further, the front step looks to be in rough condition. So what I would say is if we're putting this property on the market in springtime, we would want to paint this up. Now we have to decide for ourselves, is it better to paint this house because it's wood siding, or is it better to replace it with all vinyl? What is more cost effective? And lastly, this roof doesn't seem to be in too great of condition. It may need to be replaced in the near future, but hopefully we would not have to worry about that. So when you're evaluating a subject property deal from one photo like this, you can start building your list of renovation costs. Now what I would do on this specific example is budget to replace pretty much everything that I noted when we were just discussing that on my computer. So I would budget on this specific property to replace siding because just painting it will not do. The house is over 100 years old. So typically our cost for replacing siding is right around $400 per square, which equals a 10 by 10 section of siding. So roughly speaking, I would think because the house is 2 stories, we would probably stick right around $9,000 to $11,000 into new siding. Now, if I measured the entire exterior of the property, I would have an idea, but from my experience, this is typically what the number would look like. Now again, with a roof, our typical cost is right around $375 per square. That is continually going up, but again, a square is a 10 by 10 section. This house is 2 stories with a steep pitch. So again, this might be another $8,500 to replace the roof on here. Depending upon how many layers, it could be more expensive than that. Windows, right now, we are paying $400 per window install. And windows, the delay on windows is absolutely real. It can be 6 to 10 weeks at least until you get an order placed as the time of this recording. So work with a local window rep or a company that you can trust that can do it affordably so you don't break the bank with window installation. Concrete, you might have $1,000 in concrete if there's some patchwork that's needed. Again, another $1,000 in landscaping unless you're in a really sophisticated market. Generally speaking, we pay $6 per foot for gutter installation, as well as $6 per foot for soffit and fascia. So these are all the same thing. I just want to mark that. This one did not need railings. It did need some garage siding. It needed some work, which was not included in this original siding bid. So I would say to side the garage, you're gonna probably look at another $1,800. as well as replacing the garage door, which for us costs about $750 per one stall garage. So now we nailed down the numbers on the exterior. We didn't even set foot on the property yet. We did this all from our car, which ultimately is the best thing to do. When you pull up to the property, maybe get there 15 minutes early, take 5 minutes to write down everything that you notice and start tallying up the costs. But now let's actually break down the interior rehab costs of this property. Maybe if you're dealing with the wholesaler, you might only get photos to start and you have to come up with a offer price based upon those photos. So for this example, this is going to be a perfect practice scenario where you can lock down these numbers as I am in this video. So we are just going to start from the beginning of the photos on this house. This is photo 1 of about 20. And as you can see here, there is a lot of wallpaper that would need to be removed and then painted. Everything would need to be painted. The trim is actually extremely pretty, so I wouldn't touch that, and it's hard to see because the lighting isn't the greatest. But there is wallpaper everywhere, so a painter will charge more for that because it's much more labor intensive than just the standard painting of the walls. It takes sometimes hours or days to remove wallpaper on a house. So I would paint the walls, possibly patch any plaster work that's needed because this is an older house. I would leave the trim, possibly even refinish these original hardwood floors in here, which you can see already. So now let's go into the next photo. We're planning on painting, leaving the trim, refinish the hardwood floors. Now we're in the kitchen. We have a drop ceiling right here, which is very unique. I'm not sure if there are drop ceilings in other parts of the country, but in the older early 1900s houses, it's very common in Wisconsin. And drop ceilings are so ugly. As you could tell in the picture, it's the worst thing to have in your house. So you would want to budget for ripping that out, replacing it with sheetrock or drywall, and having it look much, much nicer and more appealing to the end buyer. So I would budget for replacing this drop ceiling, ripping out and replacing these cabinets, and then possibly opening up some walls because this is the kitchen. There's a cabinetry over here, there's cabinetry over here with the stove right here, and the sink is right here with a thin little walkway going to a bathroom. And I only know that because I've been in the property, and these windows might be older as well. So it's just something to take into consideration. We're going to save the hardwoods. Trim is already painted. We'll paint the walls, replace the ceiling, possibly replace this. New kitchen cabinets. Plumbing work is going to be involved with the kitchen sink, so all that needs to be accounted for. Again, this is just a different angle, but I would potentially think about opening up this wall to have a more open concept design so it flows better, and then being able to put in a nice larger refrigerator at the end of the day. Now this is one of the upstairs bedrooms. Bedrooms in the older early 1900s style houses aren't always the largest, so it's always something to take into consideration when you're doing deals like this. But the bedroom here, you can see it has the old woodwork as well. This window from my memory is older. I think this is an actual doorway. This is older as well, so maybe budget to replace those, paint the walls, replace the flooring, and then you should be good to go. There is no overhead ceiling fan or light in this property, so you could budget to do that if you wanted to, but not absolutely necessary. We put carpeting back into the bedrooms. Now why is this? Because carpeting is cheaper for us to do than refinishing hardwood floors or putting in LVP. So it depends on what cost you will have when it comes down to it. So I would put carpeting in here, paint the walls, paint the trim again, replace this window, it's older. The bathroom now is an old clawfoot tub. It needs a bunch of work. Like, this is the vanity for an upstairs bathroom with 3 bedrooms right next to it. So we would probably have to budget for some sort of reconfiguration. And the reason for this is if it's the main bathroom that is used, you want it to be the nicest part of the house. Like, if all 3 bedrooms are going to use that and the other bath is located off the kitchen, what do? I would stick much more money in here versus the downstairs bathroom, as most people are going to be using that one. So I would possibly leave this clawfoot tub. If everything's still functioning there, you're going to want to get the shower riser so you can actually take a shower in there. You might want to do something on the walls because it looks like this stuff is falling apart. It probably got wet at some point in time. It has the old electrical in here. It's only a 2-prong outlet, which is interesting. And then you'll need obviously paint, possibly a new window. Doors look like they could be painted. So this is the staircase going upstairs. Again, wallpaper, remove it, paint. It's going to take a bunch of work, possibly even paint these stairs or carpet the steps because they look terrible, but leave this original woodwork because that's gorgeous. Another bedroom, replace the windows, new flooring, paint, patch any plaster work that's needed. Main floor entrance, hardwood floors look to be in decent condition. What we typically do though is just replace everything with luxury vinyl plank. Now why do we do this? Because the luxury vinyl plank is waterproof, it withstands animals much better than hardwood floor does. We generally choose to go this route, and it's a lot easier and cleaner instead of refinishing the hardwood floors and creating a bunch of dust and mess and having to have everything removed from the specific space for a certain amount of time. And again, there's another picture of the exterior. The living room needs some work right here. Some damage there to the plaster. Again, damage up here to the plaster. Refinish or replace the hardwood floors with vinyl plank. Windows look to be newer. They might be newer in this section, but paint, flooring. And then this is that lower level bathroom, which is really rough. Again, the sink is right here, toilet, shower, but there is a bunch of water damage from this thing leaking over the course of time, which you cannot see in the photos. But the water damage would need to be repaired. So budget for plumbing replacement, drywall fixes, and then again, remodeling the entire bathroom. Dining room looks pretty standard with all the wallpaper, replace that. And then here's another bedroom with damage to the plaster up here. I believe this board is actually holding up the ceiling. Hardwood floors are in rough shape, so replace those. So after you go through the interior photos of a property, generally speaking, a wholesaler will typically have more photos than that. So what do you do with those? For example purposes, we're going to say that the house is 1,750 square feet, and for our flooring costs, we typically pay $4.05 on average, and this is consuming the entire property, to have flooring installed. So this includes vinyl plank, this includes carpeting, $7,087.05. Paint, we generally pay $2.25 per square foot. So again, you will come up with the number from there. Now bathrooms, I typically choose to put plumbing costs into the bathroom remodel. And on average for a full bath replacement, we spend about $300 to $3,500. Now with kitchen remodels, in most cases you want to open up the kitchen if possible because it will increase your resale value. Depending upon the price point of the house will depend upon how much money you will stick into the kitchen. Generally speaking, this is at the average price point in our area, so we don't need to do anything crazy. We can use standard box cabinets, laminate counters, maybe a tile backsplash to spruce it up, and we typically only include a stove and dishwasher if we include any kitchen appliances in the remodel. So I would have here, because we would open up the kitchen a little bit, I would put $6,000, and we are going to have a ton of electrical work because the house is older. So I'm going to say there's at least $3,000 in electrical and another $2,500 in plumbing. I have found it's almost impossible to nail down the actual electrical costs unless you have a ton of experience and you're a licensed electrician or master plumber. Now, what we generally do is say, okay, if it's a small job, maybe $1,000 for each of them. If it's a big job, then probably $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 for each of those trades, and you can generally come to a conclusion for yourself. Basement, this was old fieldstone foundation, so all that I would say here is we would try and clean it up and paint it and patch, so $1,500. We're going to need a bunch of drywall work, so again, that's going to be $2,700. I'm gonna roughly say, and miscellaneous costs and junk removal. I always budget at least $2,000 for junk removal in case the owner leaves anything behind, and then our dumpster costs. And then for miscellaneous expenses, budget 5 to 10% of your rehab costs in miscellaneous expenses. If you're a newer investor, I would say at least 10% to budget in your miscellaneous expense column, and you should be covered with that estimate. And as you can tell already, this would be a significant rehab project. This is probably a $60,000 or $70,000 rehab project based upon these initial numbers. If you're brand new, I really wouldn't recommend getting into this big of a project because it is so large. What I would recommend doing with this deal is trying to wholesale it to another investor who's experienced with the larger rehabs. If you're anything like us, you like the small cosmetic jobs that you can get in and out in a matter of like a month or 2 months at the very most, and the rehab projects are typically less than $30,000, normally right around the $20,000 amount. Now, if you guys want to know how we came across this deal that I just showed you, watch the video right here on how our Driving for Dollars system generates us tons of revenue, and we get a 4, 5, 6x return on the amount of money we spend. So again, click the video here. Talk to you soon.